What if reality wasn't something that simply happens to you, but something that is constantly, meticulously and intelligently responding to you? What if the very fabric of your daily life, the people you meet, the books that fall off shelves, the challenges that seem to arise from nowhere, the strange and meaningful coincidences you so often dismiss, wasn't a random sequence of chaotic events, but a living, breathing, alchemical mirror? A mirror designed for a single purpose: to reflect the deepest, most hidden and most powerful parts of your own consciousness back at you, using a symbolic language you've been taught to forget. This isn't a comforting thought, not at first. For the modern mind, it is a radical and perhaps a terrifying one. It dismantles the very foundation of our perceived reality. It suggests that the universe isn't a silent, indifferent stage of dead matter upon which we act out our brief, isolated lives. It suggests the universe is an active, conscious participant, a silent partner, in a conversation that is happening right now, whether you are aware of it or not. The chilling and exhilarating implication is this: in a conscious universe, nothing is meaningless. There are no throwaway lines, no insignificant scenes. Every single event is a piece of the dialogue. We have been culturally conditioned to look for answers exclusively outside of ourselves. We search for them in the dogmas of ancient books, in the charisma of spiritual teachers, in the complex systems of philosophy, or in the cold, hard, repeatable data of empirical science. We seek a guru, a doctrine, a seven-step formula, a unified field theory. We are desperate for someone or something to hand us the map. But what if the ultimate oracle isn't carved in stone on a forgotten temple in a distant land, but is broadcasting a constant, unbroken stream of personalized signals, disguised as your ordinary, mundane, everyday life? What if the most profound truths you will ever encounter are hidden in plain sight, encoded in the very patterns of your existence that you have learned to ignore? The journey we are embarking on today is not about learning a new set of beliefs to add to your collection. It is about acquiring a cipher, a key. It is about recovering the lost grammar of the soul. This is not a lecture. It is a field manual for the mystery hunter, a set of navigational tools for the cartographer of consciousness. We are not here to find comforting answers that will put an end to the search. We are here to learn how to read the living map of the mystery itself, a map whose cartographer is, impossibly, you. Our modern worldview, for all its incredible technological power, has bequeathed us a profoundly impoverished and incomplete model of the mind. We see it, and therefore experience it, as a generator, a biological computer made of meat, locked inside the dark, bony vault of the skull. We believe it produces thoughts the way a factory produces smoke, a closed, self-contained system, fundamentally isolated and separate from the external world it perceives through its limited senses. We have come to believe that we are ghosts in a machine, lonely observers looking out at an objective, pre-existing reality that is utterly indifferent to our presence. But what if this core assumption, the very bedrock of our materialism, is fundamentally wrong? Ancient wisdom traditions, stretching back through the Hermetic philosophers of Hellenistic Egypt and re-emerging in the revolutionary work of the 20th century depth psychologists, proposed a far more profound, interconnected and unsettling idea. To grasp it, we need to abandon the metaphor of the generator and adopt a new one, the transceiver. Imagine your consciousness is not a computer, but a highly sophisticated organic transceiver, an antenna made of thought, feeling and awareness, constantly both broadcasting and receiving signals on a vast invisible spectrum of frequencies. It is not a closed system. It is an open nexus point perpetually vibrating and interacting with a boundless sea of information, a universal field of consciousness. Most of the time, we are unconsciously tuned into the local, high-traffic, low-quality stations. We are locked onto the frequency of the ego, with its endless, repetitive and anxious chatter of worries, plans, judgments, comparisons, and desires. We listen, hypnotized, to the deafening static of social conditioning, the monotone voice of cultural expectation that tells us who we should be, what we should want, and what is possible. We are haunted by the ghost frequencies of our unhealed wounds and ancestral traumas, loops of old pain broadcasting from the depths of our personal and collective past. These signals are loud, chaotic, and intensely hypnotic. They create the powerful illusion that this noise is all there is, that this cramped, anxious monologue is the entirety of our being. But your higher self, which we will define not as an external angel, but as the integrated, whole and timeless aspect of your own consciousness, the total self, is also broadcasting. It is the original, clear, coherent signal. It is the fundamental tone, the keynote of your being. It doesn't shout, command or coerce. It resonates. It communicates not through demands, but through the subtle language of patterns, symbols, intuitive nudges, somatic feelings, and a profound sense of inner knowing. It is the underlying hum of cosmic order beneath the surface static of personal chaos. The great tragedy of our time is not that the higher self is silent. The tragedy is that we have forgotten how to tune the dial. We have lost the owner's manual for our own inner technology. The hunt for these signs, therefore, is not a search for something external that needs to be found. It is the subtle, patient, alchemical art of adjusting your own inner frequency. It is the work of learning to quiet the static, to turn down the volume on the ego's frantic broadcasting, until the signal that has always been there, patiently waiting in the background, finally becomes clear and unmistakable. The principles we are about to explore are not articles of faith. They are the operating physics of this conscious universe, the mechanics that govern the alchemical mirror. To understand them is to begin the sacred process of tuning. This is where the map becomes the territory, where the abstract philosophy crystallizes into lived reality. We move from the conceptual what if to the tangible how. The following are not just disconnected signs to be passively observed, they are the foundational laws of communication between your conscious mind and the greater consciousness you are a part of. To the ancient Hermeticists, these were axioms of a living, mental universe. To Carl Jung, they were the observable empirical dynamics of the human psyche. For us, they are the chapters in our field manual for decoding the alchemical mirror. The first law, the law of symbolic resonance, the outer world as an inner mirror. We begin with the first and most fundamental law, the master key that unlocks all the others, the law of symbolic resonance. The ancient Hermetic axiom, whispered for millennia in hidden schools of thought, captured it with breathtaking simplicity and power. As above, so below, as within, so without. This is not elegant poetry or a vague spiritual affirmation. It is presented as a statement of mechanics, a principle of cosmic physics. It proposes that the universe is fundamentally holographic. Every fragment contains the information of the whole. And more personally, it means the state of your inner world, your dominant thoughts, your hidden beliefs, your unexamined assumptions, your deepest unresolved emotions, does not simply exist inside the confines of your skull. It is actively, constantly, and precisely projected outward, structuring the very events and circumstances of your physical life. The outer world is not a stage you walk upon. It is a perfect and instantaneous mirror of your inner state of being. The psychologist Carl Jung, bridging the worlds of science and mysticism, gave this phenomenon a modern name, synchronicity. He defined it as a meaningful coincidence, a moment when the inner world of the psyche and the outer world of physical events align in a way that defies linear cause and effect logic, but is so profoundly significant to the observer that it shatters their perception of a random, mechanical universe. Let's ground this in the soil of lived experience. A synchronicity is not a glitch in the matrix. It is the matrix revealing its source code. It is the universe winking at you, a cosmic breadcrumb confirming your path or gently pointing out a blind spot. Think of that uncanny, shiver-inducing moment. You've been wrestling with a specific complex career decision for weeks. You feel torn between the safe path and a riskier, more passionate one. Lost in a mental labyrinth, you surrender. You go for a walk, and as you pass a construction site, your eyes are drawn to a piece of graffiti spray-painted on a temporary wall. It reads, "The leap is the path." It hits you not as a thought, but as a physical jolt, a sudden clarity that cuts through all the noise. That is symbolic resonance. Consider the more common experience of thinking of an old friend you haven't spoken to in a decade. A vivid memory surfaces, unbidden. Minutes later, your phone rings, and it's them. Our worldview dismisses this as coincidence. But through this law, your inner state, the broadcast of thought energy, and the outer event, the phone call, were two notes in the same resonant chord. Your consciousness became a tuning fork, and the universe vibrated back in harmony. This law also operates in sustained thematic ways. Have you noticed that when you're consumed by a feeling of scarcity, you suddenly see lack everywhere? Unexpected bills arrive, Your car breaks down. You miss opportunities by minutes. Conversely, when you cultivate genuine gratitude, opportunities seem to appear from nowhere. A job offer, a kind word, an unexpected gift. The world hasn't changed. Your point of resonance has. You have changed the frequency on your transceiver. It is a profound realization. You are not just an observer of your life story, you are its primary broadcaster. The universe is not judging you, it is simply showing you, with perfect, impartial fidelity, the content of your own consciousness. This concept is the bedrock of Hermetic philosophy, articulated in the Kybalion. The all is mind, the universe is mental. This implies that reality is a great thought in a universal consciousness. Our individual minds are centers of consciousness within it. Our thoughts are not private events. They are vibrations in the very substance of the universe. This is also connected to another Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration, which states, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Your thoughts and emotions are specific frequencies of vibration. According to the law of resonance, a vibration will always attract and respond to vibrations of a similar frequency. Thus, a consciousness vibrating with fear will naturally resonate with and perceive a reality filled with reasons to be afraid. Jung provided a psychological framework for this. One of his most famous anecdotes of synchronicity occurred during a therapy session with a patient who was deeply rationalistic and resistant to anything beyond logic. The patient was describing a dream she'd had involving a golden scarab beetle. As she was telling the dream, Jung heard a gentle tapping on the window behind him. He opened it, and a large golden-green beetle, the closest European equivalent to a scarab, flew into the room. Jung caught it and presented it to his patient, saying, "Here is your scarab." The event was so improbable and so perfectly timed that it shattered the patient's rigid worldview, leading to a breakthrough in her therapy. For Jung, this wasn't magic. It was a sign that the archetype of transformation, symbolized by the scarab, had been so powerfully activated in the patient's psyche that it manifested in the physical world. For the next 30 days, become a detective of meaning. Keep a dedicated journal. Each day, create 2 columns. In the first inner broadcast, record the signal you are sending out. Be specific. Not just sad, but a feeling of melancholy for a past I can't return to. Record dominant thoughts, potent feelings, recurring questions. In the second column, outer echo, record the universe's reply. An overheard conversation, a recurring number sequence, an animal that appears at a significant moment. At the end of each week, and again at the end of the month, perform a reflection ritual. Read through your log as a poet looking for a hidden theme. This practice primes your brain to notice these connections. On a psychic level, the act of honoring these events signals to your higher self that you are finally listening. You are opening a channel of communication. The second law, the law of the shadow's echo. What you resist persists and projects. The second law is more psychologically challenging, but utterly essential for true self-awareness. It is the law of the shadow's echo. It states that whatever you deny, repress, or refuse to see within yourself does not vanish. Instead, it is projected outward, and you will be forced to meet it in the external world, usually in the form of people and situations that trigger, irritate, and frustrate you the most. Your shadow, the disowned part of your own consciousness, will echo back at you from the mirror of reality until you finally turn around and face it. This is one of Carl Jung's most profound contributions, the concept of the shadow. The shadow holds all the aspects of ourselves we deem unacceptable, our anger, greed, vulnerability, passions, creativity. Anything shamed or rejected by our family or culture gets shoved into this dark psychic basement. We think it's gone, but it's fermenting. Because the universe operates on symbolic resonance, this repressed energy must be mirrored back to you. So that person in your life, that colleague you find unbearably arrogant, that family member whose victimhood drives you insane, is very often a messenger. They embody a quality you have denied in yourself. This does not excuse their bad behavior. It is about recognizing that the intensity of your emotional charge is the crucial clue. If you are merely annoyed, that's one thing. But if you feel a visceral, obsessive, and disproportionate reaction, the universe is screaming a message at you. You are seeing your own disowned shadow. A person who prides themselves on being calm and has repressed their anger will inevitably find themselves surrounded by angry people. They will judge them harshly, oblivious that the universe is showing them the very energy they have refused to acknowledge, and integrate in a healthy way. This is the oldest joke in the world. It seems the hardest final boss to beat is always the one you've locked in your own basement. This principle is deeply connected to the Hermetic principle of polarity. This principle states that everything has two poles. Opposites are merely two extremes of the same thing. Hot and cold are degrees of temperature. The good qualities you identify with and the bad qualities you project onto others are two poles of the same archetypal energy. The goal of the alchemist is not to destroy the bad pole, but to integrate the opposites. This is the great work of Solvet Coagula, to dissolve the rigid ego that sees things in black and white, and to coagulate the personality into a new, more whole form. In many Gnostic texts, this was understood as the path to liberation. The material world, governed by a lesser intelligence, the demiurge, was a world of false dichotomies. True gnosis, or knowledge, came from recognizing the divine spark within that transcended these opposites. Seeing your own darkness in another was not a sign of your sin, but an opportunity to reclaim a lost piece of your own divinity. This practice requires immense courage. Think of one person who consistently triggers a strong, negative, emotional reaction in you. Take out your journal. At the top of the page, write their name. Now list the specific qualities about them that you find most unacceptable. He is so arrogant. She is so lazy. Now take a deep breath and ask yourself with genuine curiosity, where in my own life, in what small way, do I exhibit this same quality? Or, where in my life do I secretly wish I could be more like that, but I'm too afraid? Perhaps your colleague's arrogance is a distorted reflection of your own unexpressed intelligence. Perhaps the laziness you judge is a mirror to your own inner critic that never allows you to rest. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about retrieving a lost piece of your own soul. When you can see the seed of the projected quality in yourself, the emotional charge will begin to dissolve. You have taken the echo back into yourself. The third law, the law of rhythmic unfolding, the cycles of growth and release. The third law shifts our perspective to the dynamic flow of time. This is the law of rhythmic unfolding. It states that spiritual growth is not a linear, upward climb. It is a cyclical, rhythmic process of expansion and contraction, revelation and confusion, death and rebirth. Resisting this natural rhythm is the source of immense suffering. Learning to flow with it is the key to wisdom. Our culture is obsessed with linear progress. We want constant growth and perpetual happiness. But nature and the psyche does not work that way. There are seasons. There is a tide that comes in and goes out. Your inner life operates on the same principle. There will be periods of incredible clarity and connection. Synchronicities will be abundant, your intuition sharp. This is the summer of the soul. During these times, the higher self signal is strong. This is the time for action, for creation. But inevitably, this will be followed by a winter period, a time of confusion, doubt, and apparent silence. The synchronicities may dry up. Your intuition may feel cloudy. Our ego panics, believing we have lost the connection. But this is a misunderstanding of the rhythm. This is the fallow period, the dark night of the soul. It is not a punishment. It is a necessary part of the cycle. It is the time for rest, for integration, for letting go, so that a new spring can be born. It is in the silence that the deepest transformations take root. What if the goal of life isn't to find the answers, but to learn how to live with the questions during these quiet seasons? This directly mirrors the Hermetic principle of rhythm. Everything flows, out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The alchemists understood this intimately. They knew the great work involved moving through phases, such as the nigredo, a phase of blackening, putrefaction, and dissolving of the old self, before the albedo, whitening, purification, or the rubedo, reddening, final integration, could be achieved. They didn't fear the darkness of the nigredo, they knew it was an essential stage. In Jungian terms, this is the journey of individuation. It is not a simple, happy path. It involves confronting the shadow, the winter, withdrawing from the world to understand the self, and experiencing periods of profound disorientation as the ego's old structures are dismantled to make way for the emergence of the true, integrated self. In many wisdom traditions, from Zen Buddhism to Stoicism, this is the wisdom of non-attachment. Not attachment to outcomes, but attachment to a specific state. To be wise is to be able to be fully present and engaged in summer, and equally present and accepting in winter. This practice is about becoming a student of your own inner seasons. In your journal, Reflect on your life over the past few years. Try to identify the cycles. Can you see the periods of summer, where you felt connected and in flow? What defined that time? Now, can you identify the winter periods, the times of struggle, confusion, or loss? What were the themes of those times? What did you have to let go of? And most importantly, what new strengths or insights eventually emerged after that winter period passed? By consciously mapping these rhythms, you begin to build trust in the process. When you find yourself entering a new winter, instead of panicking, you can recognize it. You can say, "Ah, I am here now. This is the fallow time. This is the time for rest and release." It allows you to consciously work with the energy of the season, rather than fighting against it. We have journeyed into the heart of the alchemical mirror. We have stood before its reflective surface and learned the ancient grammar of its language. We have explored the fundamental laws that govern its reflections, the law of symbolic resonance, which shows us that the outer world is a perfect living mirror of the inner, the law of the shadow's echo, which reveals that what we deny in ourselves, we will inevitably be forced to meet in others, and the law of rhythmic unfolding, which teaches us to honor the sacred, cyclical seasons of the soul. We have built a toolkit, a field manual for decoding the subtle, persistent messages hidden in the very fabric of our daily lives. But now, having learned to read the reflections, we must ask a more profound, more unsettling, and ultimately more transformative question. All of this work, this entire hunt, has been predicated on the assumption that these signals are coming from a higher self, a wiser, more whole aspect of us that exists somewhere above or within us in this present moment. It is a beautiful and immensely useful model, but what if it is an incomplete one? What if the source of this clear, coherent, guiding signal is not where, or even when, we think it is? Now we must re-examine this final premise and introduce a twist that recontextualizes everything we have discussed. This is the peak of our hunt, the summit of the mountain from which the entire landscape of our existence is revealed in a new and startling light. What if the source of this clear, coherent signal isn't just a higher part of you, but a future version of you? What if your higher self is, in fact, your fully actualized, completely integrated self at the very end of its long and arduous journey of individuation? The you that has finally completed its great alchemical work. To comprehend this, we must for a moment release our linear, single-file perception of time. Imagine that in the deeper realm of consciousness, time is not the rigid one-way arrow we perceive it to be, flowing irrevocably from a fixed past to an unknown future. Imagine it is more like a vast, interconnected landscape, a dimension in which every point, every past moment, every potential future coexists simultaneously, like cities on a map. And what if this future, whole self, the one who has already learned all the lessons, integrated all the shadows, and successfully navigated every winter of the soul, is capable of sending echoes, ripples, and resonances back through this landscape of time to the version of you that is still on the journey, still lost in the fog, still struggling to find the path? From this radical perspective, a synchronicity is no longer just the universe responding to your present thought. It becomes a carefully placed breadcrumb, a precisely timed message sent back from your own future, orchestrated by the version of you who knows, with perfect certainty, that you need to see that specific book in the window, or hear that specific phrase in a stranger's conversation at that exact moment to make a crucial, life-altering turn in your labyrinth. Your intuition, that sudden, inexplicable gut feeling, is no longer just a subconscious calculation based on past data. It is a direct whisper from the you who has already lived the devastating consequences of the wrong choice, a loving warning sent back through the ether. The challenging people who embody your shadow are not just random projections of your present psyche. They are carefully placed catalysts, spiritual sandpaper sent back by a wiser you who knows that confronting this specific disowned part of yourself right now is the necessary, non-negotiable next step in your evolution. The entire machinery of reality's mirror is being calibrated and aimed by the destination to guide the journey. This is not just a fascinating science fiction concept to be entertained for a moment and then discarded. If we dare to take this possibility seriously, even as a philosophical model, the implications are staggering. They re-enchant the world and place an immense sense of responsibility and profound meaning squarely on our own shoulders. First, it completely reframes the meaning of suffering and failure. If this model holds true, It means that there are no wasted moments, no meaningless tragedies, no ultimate mistakes. Every struggle, every failure, every heartbreak is not a random punishment to be endured or a shameful error to be regretted. It becomes crucial data. The pain you feel, the lessons you learn from your worst choices, the wisdom you forge in the fires of your darkest nights, these are the very raw materials that create the consciousness of your future self. That future self then uses that hard-won wisdom to send clearer, more precise, more compassionate signals back to you in the present. It creates a closed, sacred, causal loop of communication within your own soul's journey across time. You are, in this very moment, forging the wisdom that your future self will use to guide your past self, which is you, right now. You are, in a very real sense, saving yourself, retroactively. Second, this reframes the entire purpose of life. The goal is not simply to become a passive receiver of guidance to make our lives easier, richer, or more comfortable. The goal is to live a life of such courage, brutal self-honesty, and radical awareness that we become a clearer beacon for our past selves. The more we integrate our shadow now, the more we learn from our pain now, the more we align with our deepest truth now, the more powerful and coherent the signal our future self can transmit back through the landscape of time becomes. We are not just receivers. We are actively in the present moment building the transmitter. This shifts the agency from a distant, mystical higher self directly to the you that is breathing and choosing in this very moment. Every act of courage strengthens the signal. Every act of self-deceit adds static. Finally, this transforms our relationship with the present moment. It is no longer just a stepping stone to a desired future. It becomes the singular point where the entire temporal loop converges. Every single choice, every thought, every action is no longer a trivial matter with limited consequences. It is a communication. It is our part of the sacred dialogue with our own totality. The question is no longer just, what should I do to get what I want, but a far more profound one. What choice right now will make me a better, wiser, more compassionate guide for the me who is still struggling? We began this journey as decoders, as mystery hunters searching for signs in the outer world. We learned to read the alchemical mirror of reality, to find meaning in the patterns of our lives. But this final dizzying revelation forces us to turn our gaze from the mirror and look towards a far more profound mystery. The mirror reflects what we are, but it may also be reflecting what we are becoming. The signals may not just be guidance for the path ahead, but loving echoes from a destination we are simultaneously creating and being drawn towards. This leaves us standing before a final cosmic dilemma. It seems the ultimate purpose of this great hunt is not merely to learn how to listen to the echoes of your future self. The ultimate ethical challenge for a conscious human being is to live a life so authentic, so brave, and so whole that you become a worthy ancestor to your own past. The question that should echo in the silent chambers of your heart, the question that defines the very quality of your existence, is no longer, am I receiving the signs? But rather, am I living a life that creates a clear and beautiful signal to send back? And that's our hunt for now, a wild mix of documented psychological theory and tantalizing metaphysical speculation, grounded on the perennial wisdom of our shared human heritage. What do you think? Like this deep dive? Hit subscribe for more mysteries.